"You don't belong here," he whispered at my wife's company party. 3 words that shattered my 15-year marriage and nearly destroyed everything I'd built. Wade Morrison thought he was dealing with a pushover. He had no idea what kind of war he just started. My name is Ricky Mills. I'm 43 years old, and I've spent the last 12 years building my consulting business from scratch. I help startups get off the ground, turn ideas into profitable companies. It's rewarding work, and it's made us a good living. Scarlett works in marketing at Henderson & Associates, one of those mid-sized firms that handles corporate events and public relations. We have a 7-year-old son, Asher, who's the center of our world. At least, I thought he was the center of both our worlds. The company party was at the Riverside Hotel downtown. Scarlett had been talking about it for weeks, how important it was for her career, how the senior partners would be there. She bought a new dress, got her hair done, the whole 9 yards. I was proud of her ambition, proud to be her husband. That pride lasted exactly 47 minutes into the party. I was standing by the bar, nursing a club soda, and watching Scarlett work the room. She was good at this stuff, always had been. Then this guy approaches me. Tall, expensive suit, that kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. "You must be Ricky," he said, extending his hand. "Wade Morrison. I work with your wife." I shook his hand, noticed his grip was unnecessarily firm. "Nice to meet you, Wade." He glanced around the room, then back at me with this smirk. "So you're the husband everyone talks about." Something in his tone made my gut tighten. "Everyone talks about me." Wade leaned in closer, and I could smell expensive cologne mixed with top-shelf whiskey. "Let me give you some free advice, buddy. Your wife's company party. This isn't really your scene. These people, this world, it's probably over your head." I felt my jaw clench, but I kept my voice steady. "Is that so? Look around," Wade said, gesturing with his glass. "See how she fits in here? How natural this is for her. Some people are meant for bigger things. Some people outgrow their circumstances." The way he said circumstances, while looking directly at me, made everything crystal clear. This wasn't just some arrogant coworker making small talk. This was a message. "Wade," I said quietly, "you have no idea who you're dealing with." He laughed, actually laughed. "Sure I do, Ricky. You're the safe choice. The reliable guy who pays the bills while she chases her dreams. But dreams have a way of changing, don't they?" Before I could respond, Scarlett appeared beside us, her face flushed from the wine and attention. "Wade, I see you've met my husband," she said, but something felt off about her tone. Too bright, too forced. "We were just getting acquainted," Wade replied, never taking his eyes off me. Ricky here was telling me about his little consulting business. I never mentioned my business. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. They've been talking about me. About us. "Well," Scarlett said, linking her arm through Wade's. "The presentation is starting soon. Wade's been working on this campaign for months." She didn't link her arm through mine. She didn't even look at me. That's when I knew. Standing there in that hotel ballroom, watching my wife of 15 years hang on another man's arm while he smirked at me like I was some kind of joke, I knew my marriage was over. The question was, what was I going to do about it? I didn't sleep that night. Not even close. I lay on our king-size bed staring at the ceiling while Scarlett showered, humming some tune I didn't recognize. When she finally came to bed, she was asleep within minutes, turned away from me like she had been for months without me noticing. At 3:15 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and padded downstairs to the kitchen. My business laptop sat on the counter where I'd left it, and suddenly I remembered something that had been nagging at me. Scarlett had a second phone. She called it her work device for client communications, but she guarded it like state secrets. I found it in her purse by the front door, still warm from recent use. The lock screen showed 2 missed messages, both from someone saved as WM. Wade Morrison. My heart hammered against my ribs as I tried to guess her passcode. Our anniversary. Wrong. Asher's birthday. Wrong. Then I remembered her talking about her college sorority pin number from Northwestern. 4 digits. I typed them in. The phone unlocked. The messages were right there, sent just an hour ago while I was lying awake upstairs. WM. Tonight was perfect. Seeing his face when I told him about your trajectory was priceless. Scarlett. You were cruel. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. WM. Don't go soft on me now. We talked about this. He's holding you back from everything you deserve. Scarlett. I know. It's just harder than I thought it would be. WM. The Hawaii conference is in 3 weeks. Perfect timing to make things official. My hand shook as I scrolled further back. Weeks of messages. Months, maybe. Photos of hotel rooms. Inside jokes about my boring business stories. Plans that didn't include me. But the worst part was a voice message from 2 days ago. I hesitated, then pressed play, keeping the volume low. It was Scarlett's voice, but not the Scarlett I knew. This version was laughing, confident, alive in a way she hadn't been with me in years. "You should have seen him trying to help Asher with his math homework last night," she said, getting so frustrated over second-grade problems. Sometimes I wonder what I was thinking, settling for someone so limited. I stopped the recording. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing my lungs. Settling. That's what our 15-year marriage was to her. Settling. I took screenshots of everything, then carefully placed the phone back exactly where I found it. My mind was racing, but one thought kept surfacing above the rest. I'd built my business by being 3 steps ahead of my competition. I analyzed markets, predicted trends, helped startups navigate challenges they didn't even know were coming. But somehow, I'd missed the biggest threat to my own life happening right under my nose. Wade Morrison thought he was dealing with some clueless husband who wouldn't fight back. Scarlett thought she could plan her exit strategy while I paid the bills and watched our son. They were both about to learn that underestimating Ricky Mills was a mistake they'd regret. I had 3 weeks until Hawaii. 3 weeks to figure out exactly how deep this betrayal went and what I was going to do about it. The quiet guy was done being quiet. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before in 15 years of marriage. I called in sick to work and followed my wife. Scarlett left the house at her usual time, kissing me goodbye like she had 1,000 times before. But now that kiss felt like poison on my lips. I waited 10 minutes, then drove to the parking garage across from her building. I didn't have to wait long. At 11:30, Wade Morrison's black BMW pulled up to the front entrance. My wife walked out moments later, not from the employee exit, but from the main lobby like she'd been waiting. She got in his car. They drove to Riverside Park, the same place where Scarlett and I had our first date 16 years ago. I watched from a distance as they sat on a bench, her head on his shoulder, his hand stroking her hair. It was intimate in a way that told me this wasn't new. I took photos with my phone, my hand steadier than I expected. Then I drove to my friend Jake's security company downtown. Jake Sullivan ran a private investigation firm, mostly corporate stuff, but he owed me a favor from when I helped his startup client avoid bankruptcy. "I need surveillance equipment," I told him, "and I need to know everything about Wade Morrison." Jake didn't ask questions. Within an hour, I had a GPS tracker smaller than a quarter and a background report that made my blood run cold. Wade Morrison wasn't just some ambitious marketing executive. He was a predator with a pattern. 2 previous companies, 2 married women, both relationships ending in messy divorces that left the husbands financially ruined. "This guy's dangerous, Ricky," Jake said, sliding the report across his desk. "He targets successful women in unstable marriages, isolates them from their support systems, then moves in for the kill." "What do you mean, kill?" I asked. "Financial kill," Jake replied. "Look at this. Robert Chun, Portland, lost his restaurant and custody of his kids. David Torres, Seattle, bankruptcy and restraining orders. This Morrison guy doesn't just steal wives, he destroys lives." I stared at the photos of broken men who'd once been in my exact position. "How do I stop him?" Jake leaned back in his chair. "You don't stop him, Ricky. You beat him at his own game. But you need to be smart about it. Guys like Morrison have connections, lawyers, influence. You go at him wrong, you'll end up like these other poor bastards." I left Jake's office with a clear mission. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage anymore. I was fighting for my business, my son, and my future. Wade Morrison thought he was targeting another weak husband who'd roll over and accept defeat. He was about to learn that some men fight back. That evening, I waited until Scarlett was in the shower before installing the GPS tracker on her car. My hands didn't shake this time. I was past the emotional devastation and into pure tactical mode. While she dried her hair upstairs, I called my lawyer, Patricia Walsh. She'd handle my business incorporation and had a reputation for being ruthless when necessary. "Patricia, I need to discuss divorce proceedings," I said quietly. "I'm sorry to hear that, Ricky. Are we talking amicable or contested?" she asked. "Contested. Potentially very ugly." My wife's having an affair with someone who has a history of destroying marriages for profit. Patricia's tone sharpened. I'll need to see you tomorrow. In the meantime, don't confront her, don't move any money, and document everything. If this guy has a pattern, we can use that. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and started a detailed timeline. Every late night at the office, every unexplained expense, every mood change. The pattern was clearer now that I knew what to look for. My business had grown to be worth nearly $800,000. Our house was paid off, worth another $450,000. Asher's college fund had $60,000. In Colorado, Scarlett could claim half of everything acquired during our marriage. But there was something she didn't know. Last year, I'd moved my business into a family trust structure on Patricia's advice for tax purposes. Scarlett wasn't a beneficiary. She could claim half of the business value, but she couldn't force me to sell or give her control. Wade Morrison had picked the wrong target. He was used to vulnerable men who'd built traditional businesses. I was a strategist who'd spent years helping companies protect their assets from hostile takeovers. My phone buzzed with a text from Scarlett. Working late again. Don't wait up. I checked the GPS tracker app. Her car was at the Marriott downtown. I grabbed my camera and drove to the hotel. Sure enough, Wade's BMW was in the parking garage. I found a corner table in the lobby restaurant with a clear view of the elevators. 2 hours later, they came down together. Scarlett wore the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. Wade had his hand on the small of her back like he owned her. I took photos of everything. Their body language, their easy intimacy, the way Wade handed his car keys to the valet like he'd done it before. As they drove away, I realized something that should have terrified me, but instead made me smile. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calculating. And when I calculate, I win. Wade Morrison had no idea. He'd just declared war on someone who specialized in turning around failing situations. The game was on. Meeting with Patricia Walsh the next morning felt like preparing for war. Her downtown office overlooked the city, all glass and steel, the kind of place where serious battles were planned and won. Ricky, what you've uncovered about Wade Morrison changes everything, Patricia said, reviewing the background report Jake had compiled. This isn't just adultery. It's systematic financial predation. She spread out legal documents across her mahogany conference table. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're moving all your business assets into an irrevocable trust. Your son Asher will be the beneficiary, with you as the trustee. Scarlett can't touch what she never legally had access to. Is that legal? I asked. Perfectly legal. The business was yours before the marriage, and the trust structure is for tax and estate planning purposes. It's exactly what I'd recommend for any business owner your age, Patricia replied with a slight smile. The fact that it protects you from Morrison's scheme is just good fortune. Next, she pulled out bank transfer forms. We're also opening new accounts at a different bank. You'll keep the minimum required in joint accounts to avoid suspicion, but your real assets will be protected. I signed document after document, feeling like I was building a fortress around everything I'd worked to create. But it wasn't just about money. It was about ensuring Asher's future remained secure, regardless of what his mother chose to do. Now for the offensive strategy, Patricia continued. I've contacted the other victims of Morrison's scheme. 2 of them are willing to testify about his pattern of behavior. We're going to file a civil suit against him for conspiracy to commit fraud. Can we do that? I asked. We can try. At minimum, it puts him on the defensive and exposes his methods. More importantly, it sends a message to Scarlett about what kind of man she's really involved with. That afternoon, I picked up Asher from school. My 7-year-old son chattered about his day, completely unaware that his world was about to change. We stopped for ice cream, and I found myself memorizing everything. His laugh, the way he got chocolate on his nose, how he trusted me completely. Dad, why do you look sad? Asher asked, studying my face with those perceptive eyes that reminded me so much of his mother. Just thinking about work stuff, buddy, I said, ruffling his hair. Nothing for you to worry about. But privately, I was thinking about how to protect him from the storm that was coming. Scarlett thought she could walk away with half of everything and start fresh with Wade Morrison. What she didn't realize was that I'd spent my entire career helping people navigate crises, and I'd learned that the key to survival was always being 3 steps ahead of disaster. Morrison might have destroyed other families, but he'd never faced someone who understood business strategy the way I did. Every move I made now was calculated to protect what mattered most: my son's future and my ability to remain his father. The quiet consultant was about to show them both what real power looked like. The parent-teacher conference was supposed to be routine. Scarlett and I had done this same dance every semester since Asher started kindergarten. But nothing felt routine anymore. We sat in those tiny plastic chairs in Mrs. Henderson's classroom, pretending to be a happy family while discussing our son's progress in second grade. Scarlett was on her phone, checking important work messages, while Mrs. Henderson talked about Asher's math skills. "Actually, could we reschedule this?" Scarlett interrupted. "I have a work emergency that needs my immediate attention." Mrs. Henderson looked confused. "Of course, but these conferences are important for Asher's development." "Ricky can handle it," Scarlett said dismissively, already standing. "He has more free time than I do these days." The insult stung, but what happened next was worse. As Scarlett headed for the door, she nearly collided with another parent entering the classroom. "Scarlett," the woman exclaimed. It was Jennifer Walsh, mother of Tommy from Asher's class. "I didn't know you were here tonight." "Just leaving, actually," Scarlett replied, but her voice sounded strained. Jennifer's expression grew uncomfortable. "Well, I hope everything works out for you. The whole situation must be so difficult." My blood went cold. "What situation?" I asked. Jennifer looked between Scarlett and me, clearly realizing she'd made a mistake. "Oh, I just meant, well, everyone's been talking about." "Jennifer, I really need to go," Scarlett said sharply. But Jennifer, bless her honest heart, continued. "About you and that man from your office. Someone saw you at Romano's last week, and well, word gets around." "I'm sorry, Ricky. I assumed you knew." The classroom fell silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Mrs. Henderson pretended to busy herself with papers, but I could see her shock. Other parents in the hallway had stopped talking, sensing drama. Scarlett's face went white, then red. "Jennifer, you have no idea what you're talking about." "I saw the photos myself," Jennifer replied gently. "Sarah Peterson took them when she was having lunch there with her mother." "Scarlett, honey, half the school parents have seen them by now." I stood up slowly, feeling every eye in the room on me. The humiliation was complete. Not only was my wife cheating, but apparently everyone in our son's school knew about it except me. "Thank you for letting me know, Jennifer," I said quietly. "I appreciate your honesty." Scarlett fled the classroom without another word. I finished the conference with Mrs. Henderson, who kept apologizing for the awkwardness, then walked to my car in a daze. My phone buzzed with a text from Scarlett. "We need to talk when you get home." I sat in the school parking lot for 10 minutes, watching other families leave the building. Normal families with normal problems. I thought about Asher inside the building, playing in the after-school program, unaware that his classmates' parents were discussing his mother's affair. The public humiliation changed something fundamental inside me. This wasn't just about my marriage anymore. It was about my reputation, my son's reputation, and my standing in the community I'd called home for 8 years. Wade Morrison had made this personal. He'd turned my private pain into public entertainment. He was about to learn that some fights don't end quietly. The call from Scarlett's mother came at 7 in the morning, 3 days after the school conference disaster. Margaret Walsh had been more of a mother to me than my own, and hearing her voice shake with anger told me everything I needed to know. "Ricky, dear, I need to see you," she said. "Without Scarlett. Can you come over this morning?" Margaret lived in the same house where Scarlett had grown up, a modest 2-story in Lakewood with a garden that had seen 40 years of careful tending. When I arrived, Margaret's husband Frank was waiting in the living room, his usually jovial face set in hard lines. "Sit down, son," Frank said, gesturing to the couch where I had watched countless football games over the years. "We need to talk." Margaret brought coffee, her hands trembling slightly as she set down the cups. "Ricky, we know about Wade Morrison. Jennifer Peterson called me yesterday. She thought we should hear from a friend rather than neighborhood gossip." I felt my heart sink. The humiliation was spreading beyond the school parents. "We confronted Scarlett last night," Frank continued. "Demanded she tell us the truth. What she told us made us sick to our stomachs." Margaret sat down beside her husband, tears already forming in her eyes. "She said you two have been growing apart for years, that you don't understand her career ambitions. That Wade makes her feel alive again." "Did she mention his history?" I asked. "The other marriages he's destroyed?" Frank's jaw tightened. We told her about the background check you shared with us. She said you were making it up out of jealousy. Called us naive for believing desperate accusations. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Scarlett had turned my own in-laws against my evidence, made them question their judgment for supporting me. But here's the thing, Margaret said, reaching across to take my hand. We've known you for 16 years, Ricky. We've watched you build your business from nothing, seen how you love our grandson, witnessed your character when times were tough. We know who you are. Scarlett is our daughter, Frank added, but she's wrong about this. Whatever's happened between you two, abandoning her family for a man with Wade Morrison's reputation is inexcusable. Margaret pulled out an envelope from her purse. This is a letter we wrote to Scarlett. We're telling her that if she goes through with this divorce, if she tears apart Asher's life for this man, she's not welcome in our home anymore. I stared at the envelope, overwhelmed by their loyalty. Margaret, Frank, I can't ask you to choose sides between your daughter and me. You're not asking, Frank said firmly. We're choosing. Scarlett has forgotten that marriage is about commitment, about fighting for what you've built together. She's acting like a spoiled child who wants a new toy. We're also changing our will, Margaret added quietly. Asher's college fund that we've been contributing to, it's going into a trust that only you can access. Scarlett made it clear she's planning a new life in California. She won't need our help anymore. I drove home feeling like I'd gained allies but lost part of my family forever. The house felt different when I walked in, charged with unspoken tension. Scarlett was in the kitchen, her face red from crying, the letter from her parents crumpled on the counter. Your little investigation has turned my own parents against me, she said without looking up. The truth did that, Scarlett, I replied. Not my investigation. She whirled around, fury blazing in her eyes. The truth? The truth is that you become a controlling, paranoid husband who can't stand the thought of me being successful without you. The truth is that Wade Morrison is a predator, I said calmly. And you're either his accomplice or his victim. Either way, you're destroying our son's life. Don't you dare bring Asher into this, she snapped. Asher's already in this, I replied. The moment you decided his mother was less important than your affair. The meeting Patricia had arranged took place in a sterile conference room downtown, the kind of place where corporate battles were planned and executed with surgical precision. Across the table sat Jennifer Torres and David Shunn, two of Wade Morrison's previous victims, along with their attorney, Sarah Rodriguez. Gentlemen, Patricia began, we're here to discuss a coordinated legal strategy against Wade Morrison and potentially Henderson and Associates for their role in facilitating his predatory behavior. Jennifer Torres spoke first. Her voice was steady, but I could see the pain in her eyes. Morrison destroyed my marriage using the exact same playbook he's using on your wife. Company parties, late meetings, business trips that weren't really business. By the time I realized what was happening, he'd isolated me from everyone who might have warned me. David Shunn nodded grimly. The financial manipulation was sophisticated. He convinced my ex-wife to demand specific assets in our divorce settlement, assets that conveniently made my business unsustainable. Within 6 months, I was bankrupt, and Morrison's company swooped in to buy my client list at auction. What's Morrison's role at Henderson and Associates? Sarah Rodriguez asked. Senior partner, I replied. He handles major corporate accounts and has significant influence over company policy. Patricia slid a document across the table. This is where it gets interesting. We've discovered that Morrison has been using Henderson's resources to research his target's financial situations. Company databases, credit checks, business valuations, all accessed under the guise of potential client development. That's corporate espionage, Sarah said, studying the papers. We can file complaints with the State Bar Association and the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies. Jennifer leaned forward. But what about stopping him from destroying another family? Your wife might listen if she understands a pattern. My wife thinks we're making it up, I admitted. Morrison's convinced her that we're all jealous ex-husbands trying to sabotage her happiness. Then we show her documentation she can't dismiss, David said. Bank records, court filings, sworn testimonies. Make it impossible for her to claim ignorance. Patricia opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. I've prepared a comprehensive dossier on Morrison's activities. Financial fraud, corporate malfeasance, conspiracy to commit theft by deception. We're filing these charges tomorrow morning. What's the timeline? I asked. Henderson and Associates will receive the complaint by noon, Patricia replied. Morrison will be suspended pending investigation within hours. His access to corporate resources will be terminated immediately. Sarah Rodriguez smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Gentlemen, Wade Morrison has been operating under the assumption that his victims would suffer in silence. He's about to learn that some people fight back. That evening, I picked up Asher from his after-school program and took him for pizza. He chattered about his upcoming school play, completely oblivious to the legal warfare being waged around his family. Dad, are you and Mom fighting? He asked suddenly, his small face serious. Why do you ask, buddy? I replied, though my heart was breaking. She's been crying a lot. And you sleep on the couch now, he observed with the brutal honesty of a 7-year-old. I took a deep breath. Sometimes grown-ups have problems they need to work out. But no matter what happens, you'll always have a mom and dad who love you very much. He nodded solemnly, then went back to his pizza. I watched him eat, memorizing this moment of innocence before his world changed forever. Tomorrow, Wade Morrison would learn that he'd picked the wrong family to destroy. But tonight, I just wanted to be a dad having dinner with his son, protecting him from the storm that was coming for as long as I could. The call from Henderson and Associates came on a Tuesday morning. Wade Morrison had been terminated immediately, his corporate access revoked, and criminal charges were being filed. My coordinated legal strategy had worked, but I wasn't satisfied with just destroying his career. I needed him to understand what he'd cost me. I found Morrison at Murphy's bar downtown, nursing a whiskey at 2 in the afternoon. He looked older, defeated, nothing like the confident predator who'd confronted me at that company party. Ricky Mills, he said without looking up as I sat down beside him. Come to gloat. Come to deliver a message, I replied, ordering a club soda. You told me at that party that I had no idea who I was dealing with. Remember that? Morrison laughed bitterly. Yeah, I remember. Turns out I was the one who didn't know. You thought you were targeting another weak husband who'd roll over when challenged, I continued. What you actually did was declare war on someone who builds businesses for a living. Someone who knows how to research, plan, and execute strategies. So you won, Morrison said, draining his glass. Congratulations. You destroyed my career, my reputation, my future. Happy now? I'm not done, I said quietly. Jennifer Torres, David Chun, the other families you destroyed, they're filing civil suits. You're going to spend the next decade in court, paying for what you did to them. Morrison's face went pale. That's not possible. The statute of limitations doesn't apply to ongoing criminal enterprises. I finished. Every family you targeted, every marriage you destroyed, it's all connected. One big conspiracy that's finally being exposed. I stood up, leaving money on the bar. Wade, you were right about one thing. Some people are meant for bigger things. But you confused predatory behavior with ambition. Now you get to learn the difference. As I walked away, Morrison called out, What about Scarlett? What about your marriage? I stopped at the door. That's between my wife and me. But thanks to you, she finally knows what real loyalty looks like. My in-laws chose me over their own daughter. My community rallied around me. Even my business is stronger than ever. And you? I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, I replied. Thanks for the lesson. Outside, Patricia Walsh was waiting by my car with the final divorce papers. Scarlett had signed them that morning, accepting a minimal settlement in exchange for joint custody of Asher. She asked me to tell you something, Patricia said. She's sorry. For all of it. I nodded, feeling something close to peace for the first time in months. Wade Morrison had tried to destroy my life, but he'd actually shown me who my real allies were. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be broken. 6 months later, I was helping Asher with his homework when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw a woman with brown hair and a nervous smile holding a casserole dish. Mr. Mills, she said when I opened the door. I'm Rebecca Turner from down the street. I heard about your situation, and I want to say how sorry I am. Thank you, I replied. That's very kind. I also wanted to say how impressed I am with how you've handled everything, she continued. My ex-husband left me and our daughter last year for his secretary. Watching you fight for your family, for your integrity, it's been inspiring. We talked for an hour on the front porch while Asher played in the yard. Rebecca was a teacher, recently divorced, raising her 10-year-old daughter Emma alone. She was intelligent, grounded, and had the kind of quiet strength I'd learned to value. "Dad, who's the nice lady?" Asher asked when Rebecca left. "A new friend," I replied, and realized I was looking forward to seeing her again. My business had doubled in size thanks to the publicity from the Morrison case. Other business owners who'd been through difficult divorces sought out my services, trusting someone who understood their challenges. Scarlett had moved to Phoenix with a new job, visiting Asher every other weekend. Our interactions were polite, professional, focused entirely on our son's well-being. The anger had faded, replaced by something like pity for what she'd lost. Wade Morrison was in prison, serving 18 months for corporate fraud and conspiracy. The civil suits had cost him everything. His house, his savings, even his law degree had been revoked. "Dad," Asher said one evening as I tucked him into bed, "are you happy now?" "Yeah, buddy," I replied, surprised to realize it was true. "I think I am." "Good," he said sleepily. "You deserve to be happy." 3 months later, Rebecca and I went to dinner. 6 months after that, she and Emma joined Asher and me for Thanksgiving. A year later, she said yes when I proposed. We had a small wedding in Margaret and Frank Walsh's backyard. They become grandparents to Rebecca's daughter too, proving that sometimes the families we choose are stronger than the ones we're born into. Looking back, Wade Morrison thought he was teaching me a lesson about power and manipulation. Instead, he taught me about resilience, loyalty, and the difference between being quiet and being weak. Some men break when tested. Others discover they were stronger than they ever knew. I was grateful to find out which kind I was.